So this could get a bit emotional. So bear with me. Everybody tells dads the same little bedtime story. Don't worry, mate. You'll be fine. When they turn 18, they'll come back. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, because apparently at midnight, when midnight hits on their 18th birthday, and suddenly they transform into Gandhi with a psychology degree. I now see the manipulation. No. That's Disney. That's not Family Court. Family Court is more like this. It's more like EastEnders written by people with unresolved trauma and a Section 7 report. There's a weird little fantasy people have that turning 18 automatically makes someone emotionally independent. Like the government hands you like a Tesco club card, crippling anxiety and a magical critical thinking abilities all at once. You're now an adult. No, they're not. Most adults can't leave a fucking toxic WhatsApp group. Never mind emotionally detached from a manipulative parent. Jeez. And that's the bit nobody likes to talk about, because some children don't grow up in a home. They grow up in emotional hostage situations with central heating. And the dangerous thing about psychological control is it doesn't look dramatic. And that's why people miss it. If someone punches a wall, everyone panics. But if somebody slowly conditions a child over 12 years to associate dad with guilt, stress, emotional withdrawal, and instability, nobody notices, because it sounds like, well, the children have opinions. Yeah. And cult members think they're free thinking before the comments explode. Not that they do. I don't mean all mothers, not all mothers. Yeah. Relax. Nobody said all mothers. Some fathers alienate too. Human beings can be emotionally manipulative regardless of gender. Men, women, grandparents. I've seen nanas in court, family court, who look like little sweet old ladies until you realise they're running psychological operations like retired MI5 agents. Would you like a biscuit, darling? 5 minutes later, the child's disowned half the bloody bloodline. But let's stay focused, shall we? Let's stay focused. Here's what fathers don't understand at first, and you need to understand this. Alienation evolves. At the beginning, it's obvious. Blocked contact, missed calls, cancelled weekends, false allegations. We need space. He's unsettled after seeing you. Funny how the child's only unsettled after hearing the debrief afterwards. That's stage one. But stage two is sophisticated. That's when the child starts policing themselves emotionally. They learn, if I mention dad, mum goes quiet. If I enjoy time with dad, tension appears. If I reconnect, I feel guilty. And children adapt. That's what children do. Children are survival experts. A child living primarily with one parent will often emotionally align with whichever environment feels safest. Not morally correct, safest. There's a big difference, because people confuse attachment with truth, and they're not the same thing. A child can love a parent deeply while still emotionally adapting against them. And that's the tragedy. And this fantasy men have. When they turn 18, they'll finally think for themselves. Maybe not. Because adulthood doesn't magically erase emotional conditioning. You can be 32 years old and still panic when your mum texts you, "We need to talk." That message alone can ruin a man's entire Wednesday. You're sat there sweating like, she knows. Knows what? Nobody knows. But somehow she knows. That's conditioning. So when people say, well, she's 18 now, it's her choice, I always like to think, is it really? Or is it the consequence of years and years of emotional programming mixed with dependency, guilt, fear, and survival adaptation? Because if a child believes, if I reconnect with dad, I risk losing emotional security, the roof over my head, the lifestyle, they won't experience reconnection as freedom. They'll experience it as danger. That's psychology, not politics, not men's rights, not internet rage, just psychology. And courts barely understand it. The family court system still acts like, right, supervised contact every Saturday at Pizza Hut. That should solve the issue. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Nothing rebuilds attachment like lukewarm chips under fluorescent lighting. While a Kafkas officer writes, interaction appeared appropriate. Cheers, Sharon. Thanks, mate. Thanks, babe. Human connection restored. And social media has made it all this infinitely worse, because now everybody speaks like in therapy language that they don't actually understand. Toxic, gaslighting, narcissist, unsafe, triggered. Half the population's diagnosing personality disorders between astrology readings and air fryer recipes. And children absorb all of it, especially teenagers, because teenagers naturally want identity, belonging, and moral certainty. So if one parent controls the narrative consistently enough, the father stops becoming a human. He stops becoming a human being. He becomes the toxic one, the narcissist, the problem, the unsafe energy. Unsafe energy. What does that even mean? Unsafe energy. You can't say that in court, by the way, Your Honour. The respondent admitted dark vibrations, although, to be fair, some Kafkas reports are actually 2 paragraphs away from that sort of thing already. But here's where it gets really painful for fathers. A lot of men accidentally make the situation worse because they become emotionally consumed by the injustice, understandably, but then every interaction with the child becomes heavy, desperate, emotionally loaded. Please remember I fought for you. Please understand, please. Please don't believe her, please. She's lying. And the child feels that pressure instantly, especially daughters. Now, the child feels responsible for dad's emotional well-being, which creates avoidance. Not because they don't care, but because it feels emotionally overwhelming. And nobody teaches men this part. This is where it gets emotional. Nobody tells fathers, your pain may unintentionally become the pressure. And that's brutal to hear, but important, because grief changes people and make no mistake, this is grief. It's grief, one of the worst kinds. Because the child is still alive. You see photos, birthdays, updates, maybe social media posts. They exist physically, while emotionally disappearing in real time. And that messes with the human brain horribly. It creates obsession, rumination, anger, depression. Men replay conversations from 6 years ago, like this is a Sapruder film. She said, okay, in a slightly cold tone on the 14th of April, 2019. Maybe that was the turning point. No, mate, no. The turning point was probably years of unresolved adult conflict mixed with emotional dependency dynamics and systemic failures. But the brain wants certainty. That's the torture. Not knowing whether your child truly rejected you or adapted away from you psychologically to survive their environment. That uncertainty destroys people. And some men never recover from it at all. Some become permanently bitter. Everything becomes women this, feminism that. Society hates men. Look, there are legitimate cultural problems affecting fathers. Absolutely, 100%. But if bitterness becomes your entire identity, you lose twice, because now the system took your child and your peace. That's too expensive. And here's the deeper truth most people eventually realize. Children grow up. Life educates people, not YouTube, not court orders, not arguments. Life, relationships, manipulation, control, heartbreak, parenthood, betrayal. Eventually, many children experience the very emotional dynamics they once couldn't see. And suddenly, things click. Not always at 18, sometimes 28, sometimes 38. Sometimes after becoming parents themselves, then they start remembering differently who stayed calm, who didn't force loyalty, who kept the door open, who loved without conditions. And that's what lasts. Not court-ordered paperwork. Nobody sits at 35 years old thinking, God, I miss Dad's beautifully drafted bloody position statement. No one. It's emotional memory that survives. Safety, presence, consistency, and no, not every child comes back. That's another painful truth. Some remain psychologically fused forever. Some are too afraid, too conditioned, too dependent, too guilty. And fathers need honesty about that too. But your worth as a father cannot depend entirely on current access, because if it does, you'll psychologically collapse. Your job is not to become perfect. Your job is to remain emotionally safe to return to. And that's it. No guilt, no manipulation, no poisoning, no loyalty tests. Just, I love you. The door's open whenever you need me, whenever you're ready. Because one day, when the emotional smoke clears, your child may ask themselves one terrifying question: who actually loved me without trying to own me? And that question ruins a lot of narratives. Parental alienation doesn't always erase love. Sometimes it just teaches a child that survival feels safer than connection.